Hello and welcome back to my vlog. Something totally different for the next probably 3 days. I'm going to split this up into 3 parts. It's fairly lengthy. I should probably do it all at once. But this is by Pete Hendrickson, who has a couple of books out about the income tax. And he's asked this to be spread far and wide, so I only feel obligated to do that. As long as myths about the income tax persist, the misapplication of the tax will continue. February 3rd, 2013 marked the 100th anniversary of the adoption of the 16th Amendment. As was to be expected, a lot of punditry on the subject could be found throughout cyberspace and in the mainstream media, harmfully misstating the facts concerning the amendment, and thereby helping perpetuate the misapplication of the income tax. The chief error made in these articles is the characterization of the amendment as the origin of the income tax. The chief ill effect of this error is that imagining the 16th Amendment to be the origin of the tax makes it very easy to misunderstand the real nature of the tax as an excise of limited scope on only distinguished, specialized receipts. On the other hand, understanding that the 16th is not the origin of the tax makes recognition of the true nature of the tax virtually inescapable. Understanding the true origin of the tax means recognizing that the tax predates the amendment by many years, during which it was applied to the very same things to which it applies now, and was so applied without apportionment, while being properly upheld by the courts as completely constitutional. This, in turn, reveals that the objects of the tax were and are of a limited, distinguishable character suited to a non-apportioned tax. Because getting these things wrong conceals the true nature of the tax, and getting them right reveals that true nature, this is not only just a matter of academic and professional integrity. Instead, it is a matter of enormous public interest concerning the truth about a tax by which control of 35 to 45% of productive America's earnings has annually been transferred from its rightful owners to a hungry horde of sociopaths intent on living by the political means. What follows then will be facts and the documentation to support them, clarifying that the 16th Amendment is not the origin of the income tax, nor the authority for the tax generally. It will be shown, rather, that the tax predates the 16th by many years, and is an excise on specialized activity with limited scope, and is entirely different from the tax on all that comes in that most Americans have been led to imagine. Here is one truth-revealing fact, indeed the only one necessary to prove that the 16th Amendment was not the origin of the income tax. Quoting, "The Internal Revenue Title, which comprises all of the code except the preliminary sections relating to its enactment, is intended to contain all the United States statutes of a general and permanent nature relating exclusively to internal revenue, in force on January 2nd, 1939. Also, such of the temporary statutes of that description as relate to taxes, the occasion of which may arise after the enactment of the code. These statutes are codified without substantive change, and with only such change of form as is required by arrangement and consolidation. The title contains no provision except for effective date not derived from a law approved prior to January 3rd, 1939. In bold, the whole body of internal revenue law in effect on January 2nd, 1939, therefore has its ultimate origin in 164 separate enactments of Congress. The earliest of these was approved July 1st, 1862, end of bold. The latest, June 16th, 1938, ellipses, end of quote. This is the preamble to the 1939 Internal Revenue Code, which was the compilation of all income tax law in effect that year, 26 years after 1913 and the adoption of the 16th Amendment. As is plainly indicated in the text I've made bold, which I made bold, the internal revenue laws operating in 1939 and today originate in 1862. See scans of the preamble and the actual originating enactments of the tax here. There's a link. I'll put that link. It will be argued, perhaps, that while this proves that the 16th Amendment wasn't the origin of the tax, it was nonetheless the authorization of today's tax, in that under its provisions, the old tax that had been declared unconstitutional in 1895 was made constitutional by fundamental changes. But this also is not so, and readily proven to not be so. Quote, the provisions of the 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation, ellipses, end quote. Stanton v. Baltic Mining Company, 240 U.S. 103, 1916. Quote, the 16th Amendment, although referred to in argument, has no real bearing and may be put out of view. As pointed out in recent decisions, it does not extend the taxing power to new or accepted subjects, ellipses, end quote. Peck v. Lowe, 247 U.S. 165, 1918. Quote, the settled doctrine is that the 16th Amendment confers no power upon Congress to define and tax as income without apportionment something which theretofore could not have been properly regarded as income, end quote. Taft v. Bowers, 278 U.S. 470, 481, 1929. Emphasis added. The emphasis was to underline which theretofore. In other words, everything subject to the tax today was subject to the tax before the 16th Amendment, and without apportionment being required. This is because, and can only be because, that upon which the tax was and is laid are only gains from specialized activities that can be taxed by an unapportioned excise. That upon which the tax was and is laid is not, and cannot be, quote, all that comes in, end quote. Because a tax on, quote, all that comes in, end quote, is a capitation. A capitation would have required apportionment before the 16th Amendment, and still would today. Let's look at some facts explaining and substantiating this. In Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust, 157 U.S. 429, 1895, the United States Supreme Court provided the constitutional definition of capitation by reference to then Secretary of the Treasury Albert Gallatin's conclusion in analyzing the term. Quote, Albert Gallatin, in his sketch of the finances of the United States, published in November 1796, said, the most generally received opinion, however, is that, by direct taxes in the Constitution, those are meant which are raised on the capital or revenue of the people, ellipses. He then quotes from Smith's Wealth of Nations and continues, the remarkable coincidence of the clause of the Constitution with this passage in using the word capitation as a generic expression, including the different species of direct taxes, an acceptation of the word peculiar, it is believed, to Dr. Smith, leaves little doubt that the framers of the one had the other in view at the time, and that they, as well as he, by direct taxes, meant those paid directly from the falling immediately on the revenue. Ellipses, end quote. Pollock v. Farmers Loan and Trust, 157 U.S. 429, 1895. We'll stop there today. It's getting lengthy. 2 more sections. And I might interrupt this, but I might not. I've got some other things I need to make videos of. So, we'll be back to this about the taxes. This is important for people to know. Make it a great day, and bye for now.